A great time ago, when the nights were long and dark in Ireland, there lived in Connemara a woman by the sea. She was the envy of all those who knew her, for her husband was a fisherman, sure and swift in his boat, and brought home plenty of fish for her to sell at market. As his luck increased, she became tormented by cats, who were lured by the smell of fish for their supper. They crept into the house any way they could, and she began to keep a large hazel stick to beat the cats back. The cats, of course, did not like her one bit, and took to sitting on her window, watching in on her with mischievous glints in their eyes. One winter's night, while her husband was out, there came a knocking on the door. She stood and opened the door and looked out onto a moonless night. The wind shook the trees, but there was nobody there, and so she closed the door and went back to her work carding wool. Straight away, there came another knock, and she thought it was the wind and ignored it. When the third knock came, she opened the door and saw an enormous black cat. He was sitting there at her feet. The cat just looked up and walked into the house and took his ease by the fire. When the woman ran for her stick, the cat remained as he was and watched her with a smile. Then he blinked slowly and licked his lips and said, "It is about time you brought me my supper." The woman stared at the cat and was stupefied. She sat down in the chair and rubbed her eyes, for she thought she might have fallen asleep by the fire. But when she opened her eyes again, the cat was there, as large as life, with the power of the night gleaming in his black coat. "What kind of creature are you," she said, "talking to me like that?" "Oh, surely you must be the devil." It was then she ran at the cat with the stick, but the cat attacked her with a strike of his paw that brought blood to her cheek. "That will teach you," he said, "to call me names and not show proper respect to a fabulous gentleman like me." "Enough now of this carry-on," he said, "and prepare for me my supper." The woman ran for the door, but the cat was there before her, and so she fled into the bedroom and opened the small window and called out for help to her neighbour. "Tom!" she said, "Tom!" Soon enough, old Tom from across the way came banging on the door to help her. "What's going on?" he shouted. "Is everything all right in there? Jesus!" The woman watched from the bedroom as the cat calmly went to the door and opened it, then flew at the man and tore the man's face with both paws until he could hardly see a thing. He took to his heels into the night, screaming out he had been attacked by a murderer! A murderer! The cat turned around and licked his lips and blinked slowly again. "I hope the fish is good today, after all. This trouble you, lady, are giving me." He climbed up onto the table and yawned, then began to sniff at the fish laid out on 2 large plates, a fine piece of turbot and 2 pieces of mackerel. Then he bent his head to eat. The woman watched carefully while the cat was busy eating and making satisfied slurping noises. Ooh la la. She bided her time and then flew at him from across the room with a stick. "Get out of here, you wicked beast," she cried, and struck the cat a blow to the skull that would have killed any other ordinary cat. But the black cat merely turned around and grinned at her. "That is no way to treat a gentleman. It is time you showed me some respect." It was then he made a sudden leap and tore at her face with his paws. The woman fell away from the cat and lay on the floor. She knew now this was no ordinary cat. This cat was a demon cat, sent to take his revenge on her. As the cat continued to eat, he spoke aloud his satisfaction with the fish. Yes, he said, this is so very fabulously good. The woman lay very still, wondering what to do. She wiped the blood from her poor eyes with her smock, and it was then she saw the small mirror on the dresser. Without making a sound, she crept across the room and took the mirror down and brought it before the demon cat. When the demon cat looked up, it met his own reflection and began to smoke like a log on the fire. Then he went up in a puff of smoke and was gone. From that day on, the evil spell had been broken, and the cats, wise of them, stayed away from the house, and the demon cat was seen no more in that part of Connemara. So be good to your cats, kids, because